Welcome back to part 2 with Pete Oen here on Between the Barrels with me, your host, Madeline Green. So now let's talk about the horses again. When you're looking for prospects, what do you look for?
You know, I'm a little bit superstitious. I'm not going to lie. When I'm personally buying a horse for myself, I will immediately look at the horse's face, the horse's aura about them.
Yeah.
I don't ever really look down at their always look straight at their head and look at their eye. When I walk up to a horse, I sometimes get that warm, fuzzy feeling, and people are like, well, what is that feeling? And I'm like, it's just something that happens to me.
Yeah.
I can immediately walk to a horse and know I feel, and sometimes stronger than others, but I can walk up to some horses and be like, there's something about this horse I like, and I've never even watched it walk across the parking lot. I like a big, soft brown eye. I'm not a two-swirl kind of person. I like a horse with a single swirl in their head. I know some people who like the opposite, which, there again, I'm not. There's so many different ways to do this. Everybody has their own thing. So I like a horse with one swirl. It can be a little bit, middle to high. I don't really care as long as it's left to right, pretty center in their head.
Yeah.
Sometimes I look at their neck swirls. Are they super important to me? No, but the one in the head, in the forehead, is kind of important to me. I like to see that one where I want it.
Yeah.
And I like a horse with a real short mouth. In my experience, the horses with a deeper mouth where the bridle sets in their lips, the longer that is there, normally the tougher in the mouth those horses are.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So,
I've never really heard that.
Yeah, I like the eye to swirl in the mouth is where I go first. And I kind of use that because some of the prospects we buy aren't even broke to ride.
Yeah.
So you're going to go off. We obviously go off of pedigree more than anything, probably, because I'll ride a horse with really good pedigree with a conformational flaw versus a perfect horse with no pedigree.
Yeah, yeah.
So, lately, the barrel racing and stuff, I think, is no longer just, we're going to ride that horse because he's built right,
I know.
Anymore, we are, it's become a science. There's some pedigrees that cross better on others, and we've all learned to figure that out. And some people are still working on that, but that's how this whole thing evolves.
Yeah.
So I'm really fairly pedigree specific because I know what works for me.
Yeah.
And that's what's most important. There's some pedigrees that I will turn down and refuse to ride just because I've experienced them, or I know, the general consensus with the barrel racing community of those horses are, don't make per se.
Yeah.
So, and I think there's some horses that are more mature at a younger age, and that's what makes them a little bit more successful as a futurity horse.
Yeah, yeah. And so when you do find that one that you kind of like, what do you want them to show you that makes you think that you can continue training on them?
I think more than anything is attitude.
Yeah.
I don't like a horse with a pissy kind of attitude, or kind of, there's some horses I can walk up to them and they have, I call it the bowed up look. They have this little bit of this big front build up, and they got their shoulder kind of pushed out at you, like, bring it on.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to explain, but I call it the little bowed up look and or attitude. I would more so would prefer to ride a horse with a lot of try and less talent than a horse that's super talented and don't give a crap whether you like him or not, or that don't want to go to work.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that.
I like a horse that has personality, I'm going to say, more than anything.
Yeah. We talked about putting some speed to them. So talk about what you do when you do have your young horses working good. How do you step them up? I think that's kind of the most difficult thing for me.
Right. One thing I do, which I tell everybody, some people do this, walk the barrels for 3 or 4 days, and then they trot for 6 weeks, and then they decide to finally gallop.
Yeah.
When I start my colts on the pattern, here's the deal. I like a broke horse and I have to ride around.
Yeah.
I will ride a horse off pattern until I think they're broke enough to maneuver like I want them to, versus trying to teach them how to ride and how to run barrels.
Yeah.
So when I have a horse that's as broke as I think it needs to be to go around the barrels, for me, I gallop the first day. I might trot them 3 or 4 times just so they can kind of get next to the barrel. and they're not normally afraid of the barrels because I ride with the barrels up in my arena. I just don't get super, super close to them unless I'm going around them.
Yeah.
So they're not really normally afraid of them by the time I start them on the pattern because they've had to gallop around them or past them anyways. But now normally trot those colts maybe 3, 4, or 5 times maybe at most, and then I'll hit the gallop.
Yeah.
I'm not asking those colts to make a super tight turn. I'll make a nice big round circle, just teaching the horse 1 right, 2 lefts, or 1 left and 2 rights, depending on which direction that horse goes. I normally start all those colts to the right unless I just feel like it's not their thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But I will gallop those colts the first day. I will normally pattern those colts that I'm just starting on the pattern 3, maybe 4 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
I normally, most of my horses get a 5-day-a-week ride.
Yeah.
The older, more seasoned horses, they might get a 1-day-a-week kind of tune-up or a freshener.
Yeah.
Once I have those horses trained, I really don't pattern them very much. So here's the deal with me adding speed. I don't think it's getting back to your question because I kind of went somewhere else.
It's okay.
Building up to that so-called competition run, I don't just keep adding speed and going faster week by week by week. I think you have to teach those horses how to handle the pressure and handle the speed.
Yeah.
So I'll sometimes, once I get those colts good and started, I'll kind of bump them up a little bit out of their comfort zone, maybe 1 day a week and see how they handle it. And I'm not saying going from galloping that he's used to galloping and then just trying to make a run on him.
Yeah.
I'll go to a faster gallop or maybe somewhat called breeze through. I'll try to bump those horses up past what they've been used to doing and see how they handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they handle it, I might do it a couple of days in a row. And then the following week, I might not ever do that. I'll just gallop the pattern again.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of building up to a little bit past their comfort zone and then always back off.
Yeah.
And then build back up past that comfort zone, and hopefully the next time he can go a little bit faster.
Yeah.
And then back off.
Yeah.
So I don't just keep building. I go back and forth to teach those horses how to handle pressure and speed without just continuing to add pressure, and then they end up a basket case.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And do you tend to like the 4-year-old futurities or the 5-year-old futurities?
I'm not opposed to running a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, and I don't think a good 4-year-old that's ready, holding it till it's 5 is the way to go either. Yeah. I think those horses, if they're ready, they're ready. I think in particular my mare's that mare's a 5-year-old Frenchman's Guy. Yeah. I think, my personal opinion, the Frenchman's Guys are a little bit later to mature and they make better 5-year-olds. Yeah. There's some other pedigrees I think that make better 5-year-olds. Yeah. Some of them don't. They're great 4-year-olds. But I'm going to say 80-85% of the futurities we go to have gone back to 5 and under. Yeah, yeah. There's the BFA, the LG Pro Classic, and Fort Smith are about the only futurities I can think of that we go to in a year's time that are restricted to 4-year-olds. Yeah. So, we kind of went through that spell where it was 4-year-olds only a long, long time ago, and then they tried the 5-year-old thing, and then they went back to the 4-year-olds only, and now it's a big mixed group, but now they're back to mainly 5 and under. Yeah. So, I'm not here's the deal. I'm not opposed to that. Some people are like, oh, it's too many. They're too old or whatever. But it's about the horse. Yeah. If a horse, you might have a bunch more fried 4-year-olds if they have to run when they're 4. It's not sometimes we need to think about the horse and not us. Yeah. And I tell people that a lot. It's about, hey, if they're not ready, and then make a great 5-year-old and then have a huge career the rest of their life, so be it. So the 5-year-old thing doesn't bother me, but I do think a 4-year-old that's ready is just as good. Yeah, yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. I hate to see them just really push them so hard. Sometimes it takes them a little more time. I agree, and I think that pushing those horses and having deadlines sometimes is what is the evil of it all, and people kind of can go a little bit overboard, and the next thing you know is you have a big mess. Yeah, so for sure. I tell everybody who sends me a horse, look, you might want to run him when he's 4, but I may advise you otherwise, and if I'm adding this speed and this pressure and they're not handling it, I'm going to back off and if you're not happy with that, you're going to have to take him somewhere else.
Yeah. And in the end, you're just trying to do what's best for the horse and save them some money.
Exactly. And there's times where I'm like, look, no, I've had horses that they don't all make futurity horses. I mean, you have an idea what it makes, what it takes. I mean, it takes a unique, special individual, especially to be a winner.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you can train a lot of placers, and I'm okay with placing. Obviously, this is my first big win. So, I'm not afraid of placing. I'd rather place fifth in every futurity than win one and go home with no money for 5 in a row.
Heck yeah.
So I'm okay with placing. It keeps my people happy and I'm happy.
Yeah.
So, and that shows that you can maybe I call it train a consistent horse.
Oh yeah.
They don't always have to win first place, but winning is obviously fun. This has been fun.
It is fun. And so who is your favorite trainer?
I'm going to pick girls, obviously. I don't really love the way a lot of the guys ride, and I'm nothing against them. I just think they do more of the work for the horse versus teaching the horse to work for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I really like Ashley Schaefer and Hallie Hansen are probably two of the people I could follow and ride behind, or they could probably ride behind me, maybe the easiest.
Yeah.
And I think Kay Blanford and I have a little bit of something in common.
Yeah.
So those, if I had to pick, those would probably be the 3 girls, and it doesn't mean that there have to be girls, but the 3 trainers, I really like their style. I think I could ride their horses and or vice versa. I think they could ride mine.
Yeah. Okay.
And Ashley and I and Hallie, I mean, we all went to that big Washington thing up there.
Yeah.
And I didn't know a whole lot of people, but even though we're all competitors, Ashley and I, even Hallie and Lee, I mean, we bounce ideas off one another and ask, what do you think of this horse, or what do you think about that horse, or I have this horse that's doing this. What do you think? Would you watch a video? So we're all friends. Yes, we all want to win, but in the end, we're all still friends again. I mean, we're friends during competition, but everybody wants to win. Whoever wins, it doesn't matter because we're all still friends.
Yeah.
And I think and that's one reason why I think we got away from riding the pleasure horses, just because there was so much political stuff involved and it was a judged event.
Yeah.
And you could win everything one weekend and go the next weekend and have the exact same performance and win nothing. So, and that's why, and honestly, also, I think that's how our community stays more friendly than some of those judged event communities in the horse industry, because people are a little bit bowed up towards one another because they thought their horse was better than that horse, and the judge didn't like them or whatever. And I'm not knocking any other discipline, but I'm just saying I think that's how the barrel racing community stays a lot more friends during, before, and after competition, because there's no question who should have, could have, or did win.
Yeah, for sure. And it's a pretty close-knit community, too, so it's always pretty cool.
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's a lot of us that would do do anything for somebody else.
Oh, yeah. And so there's no barrel races, and all your horses have been rode. What are you going to do?
Probably going to work on something else on the ranch. I'm going to haul manure. I'm going to mow the grass. I'm going to fix the stall. I'm going to start a project.
So always staying busy.
I am a workaholic. Ask anybody who knows me very well. Tyler will say, "Oh my God, would you please stop?"
That is so funny.
I am a workaholic. I kind of came from that kind of family. My dad is a perfectionist. I am too. Everything is completely organized. I'll tell you where to find almost anything that's mine that I own. I don't leave stuff lay around very often, ever. So I'm a very OCD organized person, and I'm always working. And there again, I think that's one of the drives that you have to have being self-employed.
Yeah.
If you don't have self-drive, you might not succeed if you don't have somebody standing over you smack cracking a whip.
That is very true.
I'm very self-motivated, and I think that's possibly what's helped me get where I am today.
Yeah, that's great. And lastly, what do you still hope to achieve in the sport of barrel racing?
I obviously would like to win first. Win every futurity there is to be won at least once. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
I think more so than anything is to have a positive reputation and have good horses and have a good group of horses horses to market or sell.
Yeah.
And I think I'm working a little bit more towards doing a little bit more breeding. I don't know. I think if I just continue like I am, hopefully those things will happen. And I think just trying to keep a good business and keep good, don't make wrong decisions over stupid things, and make sure that you don't ever worry about just yourself.
Yeah.
I think I'm a true believer in karma, and I think it will make a full circle. It might take a long, long time, but I think karma will always make a full circle and come back. So I'm a firm believer in that, and I see it happening from time to time from things that I've experienced and know.
Yeah.
So I think if you wrongfully do to somebody and know you did it, I think it will come back around. Now, if it's an honest mistake, I think that's different.
Yeah.
But I like being, doing what we do. The travelings really helps keep it fresh sometimes, where we don't have to stay at the same place all the time.
Yeah.
But more futurity. I'd love to win Fort Smith. I haven't won it. I won the long go and was reserve champion on Hip Swing and Gypsy. So, a couple of those, I guess goal-wise, a couple of those other major futurities would be great to win. And I'm just going to try to. I may never, but that's going to be my goal. And basically, producing a product somebody else can use, just not myself.
Yeah.
As in, a horse.
Yeah.
I like to see horses I train go on with somebody else and be successful.
Well, those are definitely some good goals, and I'm sure that you will achieve them since you're such a hard worker.
Well, I hope you're right.
Well, thank you so much, and I hope that you have a safe trip and tons of luck at the BBR finals.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Well, that is a wrap for this week's Between the Barrels. It was great getting to talk to Pete. He is a great trainer, and I think that we can all learn a lot from his training style. And I hope that you guys enjoyed it just as much as I did here. Well, I am Madeline Green, and until next week, enjoy this week.